Hi folks, welcome into the Truck King YouTube channel. You've got Steve and Matt here today to talk about a riveting topic, engine oil.
Riveting.
People love to argue about engine oil, and these days, Matt, a lot has changed with engine oil. So in this video, we're going to talk about what every single pickup truck manufacturer recommends for oil changes and what types of oil to use. And then we're going to consult mechanic Matt for his expertise and just talk about, should you really listen to what the manufacturers say? Should you do more oil changes than they say? What's the deal with OW20? We're going to dive into all of that right now. First off, guys, welcome Matt back to the channel. He used to be around a lot. He's going to be around a lot more coming up. And for those of you who don't know, Matt's not just a pretty face. He's my brother, but he's also a mechanic. He's been working on cars now for a decade, right, Matt?
About a decade, yeah. I've spent a lot of time with a Toyota store. I was a Toyota master technician for a number of years. Moved on to a Honda store. I was a Honda master technician for a number of years. And then actually moved on to a Hyundai store where I was a Hyundai master technician for several years. Now I've actually gone independent, and I've spent a lot of time changing oil. My hands are permanently stained.
Well, that is good. And this is a good combination because I'm good at breaking stuff and Matt's good at fixing stuff. So we work well together. So let's dive into pickup trucks now, Matt, and just talk oil change interval timing first. And actually, all three major Detroit manufacturers are basically the exact same here. They all say change your oil between 7,500 and 10,000 miles, depending on how you use your vehicle. So maybe we should start there. You know, that's the general interval, but how does how you use your vehicle come into play with how much you should change your oil?
At the end of the day, it depends on the type of driving you do. If you are that guy who's out there just commuting and, you have a fairly standard commute, X number of miles, nothing too crazy, not a lot of hills, not a lot of this, that, sure, manufacturers' recommended specs are going to be fine for you. You're that guy, you're going to be all good. If you are, let's say, the contractor and you've got that trailer on the back full of your tools, the bed's full of materials, the back of your truck's full of, the grumpy guy you had to wake up to work today in the back there, you're putting a little bit more load on that vehicle. Maybe you're skewing yourself now towards that lower part, that 7,500, or maybe even a little bit shy.
Okay.
And then, of course, now you have your extreme usage cases. You have your work trucks, work bodies on the back of your truck. You have the guys that are out there driving in high heat, low temperatures, super cold conditions, off-road a lot, towing a lot, all these things boil down to how fast it degrades. And then I think the third group here too is dad. It's the older folks where their truck sits in the driveway 6 days a week and then it goes to the bank and back. So now you're not coming anywhere near that interval in a short times period. But you got to really watch that because that also needs to be changed with some frequency despite the mileage.
Right. And that's where the manufacturers also say, 7,500 to 10,000 or every 12 months.
Yes.
And do you feel like that's the right number? It should be oil change once a year, basically, regardless of how much you drive?
Once a year is a very basic, regardless of how you drive. The average number of driving kilometers in a year, and sorry, I'm going to use Canadian numbers here. I can put it on miles on the screen for you.
And you apologized. How Canadian?
I have to apologize, right? Is anywhere between 20 and 30,000 kilometers per year. That is what average drivers do in a year. So based on that number, you're looking at anywhere from 3 to 4 oil changes. If you're that guy. If you're lower than that, so if you're thinking, oh yeah, I'll just change it once a year. No, if you're hitting those numbers, you're definitely going by the distance on your vehicle. And a lot of these more modern trucks, more modern vehicles will have your maintenance minders.
Right.
Things that are actually counting for you and watching for you. So if you stick to those as they pop up and tell you it's time, you're definitely going to be doing them on time. If you are the low mileage guy, sure. Once a year, I'm not going to fault you. I change it twice a year, regardless. I have one car that drives a lot. I have one car that doesn't drive a lot. I do twice a year. When I switch my tires, I change my oil. That's what I do. And I mean, I've got two 20-year-old Toyotas that just won't quit.
Fair enough. Matt, you mentioned sort of oil maintenance reminders there. So let's talk about that because I know that's changed a lot too. From the days when an oil light would pop on every 10,000 miles just looking at the odometer, that's not what's going on today, right? We have smart oil life monitors now. And how do they work?
There are two types, yes. There are your smart type monitors and then your standard counters. And I will preface by saying you got to be familiar with your own vehicle. There are so many out there, and I'm talking within the same brand. They're not unilateral. Not everything uses the same thing. So be sure you're familiar with your own vehicle. But if you do have a smart monitor, it is watching several different things inside your vehicle every time you start the engine. So it's looking at the initial starting temperature. Do you live, way up near the North Pole and it's minus 20, Fahrenheit to Celsius every single morning? You're putting that thing through a lot of extra strain with those cold starts. Or do you live in the desert and it's 110 degrees every single morning? So it really watches your ambient temperatures. It also watches loads. So if you are driving your truck with nothing on it, you're just driving it empty, you're not towing too much, you maybe pull something on the weekends, load up some stuff in the bed on the weekends, it's watching that and saying, okay, they don't drive this too hard. If you're towing all the time, it's watching the amount of load and the amount of force that's being put on that engine and going, oh, I'm being worked really hard. So rather than say you've got this much distance now, I'm going to knock that down a little bit because you drive me extra hard. And then, of course, your own driving styles are now monitored. Mm-hmm. So the amount of throttle inputs, your average speeds for different trips, all different types of things that it's watching, and of course the mileage. So it starts with a set factor. It goes, okay, cool, you changed it, great. You've got X number of kilometers, let's go. And then, oh, we're driving really hard, I'm gonna pull that down a little. Oh, it's really cold out for a few months, I'm gonna pull that down a little bit more. So when it comes to a smart monitor, if you have one, it's really a great idea for you to just follow it. It takes the work out of it, right. Honestly. Steven owns a pair of Hondas, and we were talking about his too. Honda is a great example of a car company that their monitors monitor everything, and not just engine oil. They're monitoring transmission oils, differential oils, your different brake fluids, and even things like your chassis inspections and stuff. Some of them are just basic mileage counters, but a lot of them are very intelligent. If you live in a mountainous area, it's going to tell you to change your transmission oil a lot. If you bought a car, a car or truck to be a taxi, it's going to tell you to change your oil, change your transmission, change everything all the time because you're start, stop all day long. So smart monitors are a great move. Now, again, a lot of brands still just use a standard counter. Punch in your mileage, punch in your time every 6 months, 8 months, 10 months, whatever you need, and off they go. And then, if you want to get really crazy, and we're not going to talk about it today, but then the different German and European manufacturers, they've got some crazy stuff going on over there. 24,000 kilometer oil change intervals with insane different things that they're watching all the time.
So safe to say, if you got a Smart Life monitor, trust it.
Trust the Smart Life monitor. Just be sure that your model has one before you trust it.
Fair. The last thing we need to talk about now is just the actual grade of oil you are putting into your pickup truck. And these days, what's kind of controversial, Matt, is the 0W20 oils that we have. And I say these days, but 0W20 has been around for quite a while, and it's been pretty commonplace since like 2010, 2011.
Since I started in the trade.
At a bunch of different brands. So it's not like this is a brand new thing or anything like that. But yes, even pickup truck manufacturers now, for some engines, are recommending 0W20. So can you just talk me through, first of all, what that means, 0W20 versus 5W30, the one that feels like everyone knows, and then what's the big deal? Why are people worried about these new low viscosity oils?
Okay. Well, the simplest way to explain it, the W in the middle of the designation is winter, is a winter designation or rating. So in a 5W, it is a 5 weight oil. And now the weight is just the ability to flow at lower temperatures, or its viscosities. And then at operating temperatures, the second digit, it's acting like a 30 or a 20 weight oil. Again, just its ability to flow once it's warmed up. So that's the big thing. A lot of people don't know what those numbers mean. That's the only thing to remember. The W is winter.
So therefore, the 0W20 should flow better at colder temperatures, meaning at startup, you should get more engine oil flooding that engine and protecting the engine, right? That's the thinking.
That's it. That's what you want too. We're not even talking extreme cases, like the minus 21 degrees Celsius we had yesterday morning. Right. We're not talking about those. We're talking about just an average cold startup. You want to be able to flow that oil up into the bearings, up into the different rotating parts in the engine. Not to mention a lot of modern engines, most modern engines, rely on oil pressure for things like variable valve timing, as well as things like your timing chain tensioners. So you want to be able to get the oil there quickly, and you don't want to starve anything, because that's when you start to get into issues where things are running dry and things are getting just that little bit of extra wear. And it's not a one-time issue, it's a repetitive. Every day, if you're not getting the oil there fast enough, it just wears a little more, and it wears a little more, and it wears a little more.
Right. Yeah, the other benefit too is supposed to be fuel economy, right? With an
Yes.
OW20, you're supposed to get better fuel economy. And that is one thing a lot of people point to is brands started moving towards 0W20 when there was stricter government regulations when it came to fuel economy. This is one way that these OEMs said, "Hey, I think if we, move to this new engine oil, we can pick up a couple MPG."
Yeah, you're seeing improvements anywhere from like 1 to 3% is kind of the numbers that we were looking at. And the big thing too is you keep seeing them now. We're going skinnier and skinnier. And when I say that, I'm just talking about the oil designations.
Right.
When I was working at Toyota, right as I was leaving Toyota, they brought in a 0W16, which they just took the O20, they added a little water, and then you pour it in. No, they made it a little bit thinner, and now I'm not there anymore, but I've heard as low as 0W8. Which, I mean, it's got to feel like baby oil. Like there's nothing there anymore.
Right.
It's just as thin as possible for efficiencies. And you're seeing that in a lot of things now that are hybrid, plug-in hybrid, things that don't run all the time. So you want that longevity from your synthetics, but you also want maximum lubricity. You want to make sure that everything gets the most efficiency you can out of those power plants.
Right. So then, yeah, looking at sort of the flip side of this is there's a common thought now that these oils are too thin. How can they possibly protect my engine properly? Because they're just not thick enough. There's not enough there. So can you speak to that? Especially, did you ever see any vehicles that came in with this thin oil where there was some kind of, evidence of wear?
Every engine has evidence of wear, I think, is where I'll start with this. At the end of the day, no matter what you're running, you are taking steel and oil and fire and forcing the three to work together.
Sure.
And because of that, you're going to have wear, right?
Yeah.
Now, more modern engines, you're looking at super tight tolerances. You're looking at bearing clearances that just keep getting smaller and smaller and smaller versus an older engine, say like Big Green or even Dad's 71, where, you got a lot more slop to work with. Because, I mean, tools weren't necessarily as precise. Engineering wasn't necessarily as precise at the time when those engines were made. So you got a little bit of variance in terms of your older versus your newer. If you're running a newer engine and you're running the correct oil, it is designed for that purpose. And I actually created just a little bit of a visual demonstration today. So Stephen and I have an abundance of children. So I went and found a bunch of marbles, and I don't even know what these are, but they're a little bit bigger. So I have two different sizes you can see there. Let's say, for example, that this smaller balls here are your 0W20. This is your engine bearing. It sits on that guy and it rolls around as your engine is rolling. Now, if you take that 0W20 out of your engine and try to put in 10W30, well, that bearing no longer is going to fit. In an older engine, however, that you're running a larger oil, and you try to put the smaller oil in, those molecules will start to stack and they will start to run on each other, almost like in a pile. So they will take up that space and still create the desired effect. So there was a breakover year, for example, when I worked at Toyota, where we brought out an engine, and I believe 2 ARFE or 2 ZRFE, if I want to get technical, I don't remember exactly which one, but one of those two came out with a dual designation. You could run 520 or O20. And we all thought the same thing. Well, we're obviously going to put 520 in it because that's what we were running before. That's what's better. But the engineers said, no, the O20 will take up that room. Same as currently at Hyundai, they have put out an internal bulletin to most of the dealerships across the globe saying that any engine that used to run 530 can now run 030 with minimal to no change. Right? And again, as we're getting into different brands and different things, we're seeing O40s now. I know some of the Fords are running O30 and O40 Euro spec oils, especially in like the Power Boosts and in some of the Rangers that I've worked on. And that's just, again, fuel efficiency, longevity. They're doing everything that they can. I mean, especially in the Power Boost where you've got that generator sitting there running and running and running and running. You want something that is just going to work for a long time and minimize your wear in a tight tolerance engine.
Mm-hmm. Well, now we've spit a lot of information at you guys. I'm sure you are thoroughly confused. So let's bring it on home, Matt, and wrap it up with, I think, some of the big questions, which are, how often should you change your engine oil? Should you trust the manufacturer's recommendations? And then I think the follow-up there is, can I overchange my oil? If I think they're telling me the intervals are way too long and I want to change it every 3,000 miles, regardless of how I drive, is that okay? So let's start with those, and let's put a bow on it.
Okay, so number one. Should you trust the manufacturer?
Yeah.
Certainly in a case of warranty and lower mileage vehicles, you want to stick to those intervals because you want to make sure that your vehicle's being covered.
Right.
Now, and that's not just changing at the dealer, but just changing at any warranty approved shop. There's nothing that they've built into those cars, your different oil change minders, or just the service intervals that they've given you, that's going to adversely affect your vehicle. Their manufacturers are not out there to get you, as it were. They are giving you an interval. This is going to work. How often should you do it? 2 usage cases. You're the commuter, change it when it tells you, or just change it on a regular twice a year, in that 7,500 to 10,000 range. Just do it consistently and you'll never have any problems. And then the other usage case is, of course, when my mom called me before her and my dad went down south and said, I need to change the oil in my car. I was like, you drove 4,000 kilometers this year. So I'll get to it. You're not in trouble. We're going to get it. You'll get it done. And yeah, when you go into the store and you see all the different grades, you always want to go with what your manufacturer recommended. If there are superseded bulletins, if you really want to get into forums and start learning that kind of stuff, great. But for the most part, if it says it, the best place to check, your oil cap. Open the hood, right on the cap, as per the Society of Automotive Engineers, right on the cap, it says 0W20, 5W30, OW40. Tells you exactly what you need. It even sometimes recommends a brand rather. Like GM will want your Dexos rated oil and things like that. So go with what it says, check your owner's manual, read online, but there's certainly no disadvantage to changing it more often, as you asked, except that it's going to hurt your wallet more adversely. When you walk into that store and you see that wall of oils, pick the right stuff and just change it when you're ready.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, folks, I think that's it for this one. That is a lot of information, and now we need to hear from you guys. So drop in the comments. Let us know what you do for oil changes on your pickup trucks. If you have more questions, drop them down there, and maybe we can do a follow-up video too, because, yeah, this is one of those topics that will never stop coming up because everyone has to worry about oil changes, and they all want to make sure they're doing the right thing.
It's not going away anytime soon.
Yeah, exactly. Although Ram did get rid of the dipstick on the Hurricane, so there's one engine you can't even check your oil on anymore. Yeah, not cool, right? Anyways, leave us that comment while you're down there. Don't forget to hit like, hit subscribe, hit join, become a member of Truck King, and then come right back here to the channel and see what we're testing next. See ya.